For me to say Jesus was, it should have been Yom Kippur and not Pesach, is like asking about the Roadrunner.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go right ahead with your questions with Rabbi.
Okay. Hi, Rabbi. My question is about Christ being a sacrifice. So my question is that if he was the sacrifice according to the way that they sacrifice animals.
I have to tell you a funny story. I went to MIT years ago to lecture, and students were very happy that I was there, and they brought me into a dormitory. And in the dorm, I think it was on Massachusetts Avenue, and you had all these kids sitting around watching cartoons, and each one had a pad of paper and a pencil in his or her hand. And these kids, these are the smartest kids in the world. Probably one of the most difficult technical universities to get into in the world, right? So every one of them is a genius. And they're watching cartoons. I don't remember which one. So I asked the fellow who was showing me around campus, what are they doing? So he said, all these kids are sitting around the TV watching cartoons, and they have a contest. And the contest is, during this cartoon, how many times do the creators of the cartoon, does the story violate the laws of physics? That was the competition. And the person who can come up with the most was the winner. Imagine that? I'm not kidding. So, this is all silly stuff. You're asking a question on the Roadrunner. I'm not trying to mock, but what you're asking a question about complete fiction. Innocent people should not be in any prison, right? It would break your heart to think that any innocent person was sitting in a prison in your state. It would break your heart. And I think you would do anything you could to free such a person, right? You'd want to. What do you think? You think God wants innocent people to suffer the bad behavior of wicked people? The word sacrifice is a disgusting word because it's Christological, and therefore it masks the real word korban, which means to come close. So no one could die for anyone else's sins. No one. That's what kind of societies, incidentally, would actually knowingly punish an innocent person for the bad behavior of guilty people. I'll tell you what kind of societies do. Wicked societies do that. Frequently. Under Stalin, completely innocent people were punished. They were sent off to the gulag, or worse, and they were completely innocent. And guilty people were let free to roam the streets and do what they want. In Nazi Germany, innocent people were punished and guilty people walked free. God is not Stalin, and he's not a Nazi, and he would not punish. So the whole story is completely convoluted. In the ancient world, people thought that the gods had to be appeased, and you had to sacrifice virgins and babies to volcanoes, chop their heads off, or cut their chests open and remove their hearts. That's what they thought, and it's completely pagan. And Christianity just simply imitates these stories. There's no little. Now you ask me, how come it's not Yom Kippur, not bad? Yeah, but you're asking me a question about the Roadrunner. It's like it's complete fiction. It's true. You're asking an intriguing question, and that is that the offering for Passover, Exodus 12, has nothing to do with sin. Nothing to do with sin. It has to do rather with righteousness, that it showed if a person brought a lamb as an offering, in the first Passover ever celebrated and put the blood on the outside of the doorpost for all to see. Therefore, they were committing a crime in Egypt, where the lamb was a god. And therefore, you were demonstrating by such an action that you feared the God of Israel more than you feared the Egyptian soldiers. So it was a very poor choice. But when you're making up stories, you could make up any story you want to. Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. It works. I tell this story a lot. I saw this interview where Seinfeld, the main character of the episode after his name, was asked the question, why during this sitcom, the stories were completely convoluted, didn't make any sense. It was just completely outrageous stories. It was a very successful sitcom, one of the most once successful sitcoms in American television, right? But the stories made no sense. They were convoluted. It was ridiculous. So Jerry, the main character, responded and said, we didn't care. We did not care at all if the story made sense or no sense. It was so ridiculous and it only had to be funny. That was it. If it was funny, we put it in. If it was not funny, we didn't put it in. Didn't make a difference how ridiculous it was. And it was a funny sitcom, and that's what the Christian Bible. The Jews have to look bad. Jesus has to be the protagonist, and he's willing to suffer for everyone else. It's all nonsense. And the Christians quote Leviticus 17:11, but Jesus' blood was not on the altar. But for me to say it should have been Yom Kippur and not Pesach, is like asking about the Roadrunner. It really is. It's asking about by what means does Superman fly? He can't fly. How did that happen? He doesn't have wings. What about gravitational? Because it's silly. It's all chicanery. It's all nonsensical. That's really the answer to the question. Now, in Superman, you understand. You just suspend logic. But the stories don't make any sense. You're right. If anything, Yom Kippur should have been the main holiday for which connect to, but they didn't care. It just had to. The story had to work. Anyways, thank you so much for your thoughtful question. If you enjoyed this program, please like and subscribe.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא עובר